Hi, welcome to Regular Magazine's YouTube channel. I'm Jason, and today I'm going to look at two books from Osprey. Both complement each other. They both cover the same sort of period, the late Roman period into the Dark Ages. The first one is the Hunnic Warrior versus the Late Roman Cavalryman, and the second one is a new book that is out, I believe, in January time, and it's the post-Roman kingdoms. So if we get started with the first one and have a look and see what's inside the book. Okay, so we have the Hunnic Warrior versus Late Roman Cavalryman. This is Attila, and the wars between Attila and the late Roman military machine. It's AD 440 to 53, and it's from the Combat series. As always with Osprey's books, they're very nicely illustrated throughout. So, quick look at the contents. We start off with an introduction that introduces to the period and the topic to the reader. Then it looks at opposing sizes, which is looks at the army composition, size, organisation, equipment and tactics. Then it looks at some of the battles like Nasus in 443, the Utus River and the Catalonian Plains in June 451. Then we go into an analysis how effective each of the different militaries were and how much effective the actual soldiers from both warriors from both sides. And then in the final there's an aftermath, and there's a bibliography where there's sources, ancient works, modern works, so you can go delve deeper into the topic. And so we start off with the introduction. As always, it's full of great illustrations and images throughout. One of the other good things about Osprey's books is the maps. The campaign maps. They've always got great campaign maps, and these are really useful for anyone that's looking at wargaming this period. So we go to opposing sides and we look at the different warriors. Now, if I just get this in shot, you've got a front and rear of the Hunnic Warrior. I remember these were nomadic tribes that were under kind of Attila's command, and so they were very much horse archers, dominant in their military. Let me go on, and then we see the Roman equivalent, which was the cavalryman. And then we go on to organisation of the military, and it looks at some of the equipment and tactics on both sides. I mean, these really are a great starting point for anyone looking at this sort of period or looking to play one of either of these two armies. And then we look at the battles from that period, and we go through. And then we have, as always, great pieces of artwork from Osprey. We go on to Catalonian Plains. Gives us a complete breakdown of all that, and we start looking at the we have things like this, formations of the battle, what units were involved. Looking at combat. Look at some. They also have short pieces on each of the commanders, and yet again we have more great artwork throughout. And then we look at the analysis of the last page, where it looks at the effectiveness of the Hunnic army, and then the Roman. We then moves on to the Roman effectiveness. And then it looks at the aftermath, what occurred in the wake of this conflict. And that's all on that one. I mean, these are I really like these books. These are a great starting point for anyone that's interested in a particular period, and these give a good overview of the armies involved during those period. So we'll move on to post-Roman kingdoms. Okay, so post-Roman kingdoms looks at what happened to Gaul and Britain after the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. This, like I said, this is a new book. This isn't out, I don't think, until January. I may be wrong, it might be out just before January, but I think it's January this book is released. It covers a period of 450 to 800. So we are looking at the Dark Age period. And this is a great book for anyone that's looking at gaming that period, especially for anyone that's looking to doing Saga Age of Invasions, which is what period I'm interested in and planning to do. So as always, we look at the contents. We have an introduction. This looks at the sub-Roman and post-Roman periods and gives you an overview along with a selective chronology. We'll take a quick look at that in a minute. Then moves on to post-Roman Gaul, and this gives historical backgrounds to the areas and on what was occurring in Gaul at the time. And then looks at the military organisation, the armies, the Patrician, Armorica and Brittany, and post-Roman enclaves and cities. It then moves on to post-Roman Britain, and that's the same again. It looks at the historical background. It also looks at the warlords of Ambrosius. It takes a look at Arthur, or the possibility of an Arthur. And then we start looking at some of the kingdoms of Britain just after the collapse of the Roman Empire. Looking at Cumbria, Elmet, Strathclyde, Gwynedd, Dyfed, Powys, Damonia, and other Romano-British enclaves. It then looks at the military organisation, where it's looking at the warlord armies. It looks at the military organisation of the Romano-British kingdoms, and then looks at the size of armies. And then we moved into one of the more important areas: equipment, arms, and clothing. And this gives us a rundown of what sort of armour, helmets, weapons, other equipment they were using. And it also starts looking at Germanic equipment, because obviously in this period the Germanic tribes were starting to have a bigger influence on Britain and Gaul. Then looks at the breakdowns in Brittany and Armorica, British warlord armies, and cavalry equipment. And then looks also at the post-Roman kingdoms in the same way, including cavalry warfare, military dress, and then at the end there's bibliography. So we start off with the introduction, and that gives us an overview of what was occurring in the sub and post-Roman period after the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. We also get throughout plates like this, and these are great for any wargamer, because this will give you an idea of sort of armour and colours and stuff like that are being used by armies at this period. Then we have our chronology, and it starts off with the 5th century, 407 to 410, and that's roughly the end of Roman rule in Britain, official end of Roman rule in Britain. And this all goes right through to 796, and that's when we start to move into what we would associate with Vikings and late Saxons and stuff, and sort of those sorts of military and personalities of that era. So we start off with the post-Roman Gaul. We get a historical background of the patrici. It also covers Amorica. Again, there's more plates, giving us a good idea of what the military looked like at the time. It gives us the military organisation. And again, more plates, colour plates. And then we move on to post-Roman Britain. And they're the same. It goes through different aspects of Roman Britain. It looks at the warlords, Ambrosius, Arthur, some of the kingdoms. And then it looks at the military organisation of those, like starting with the warlord armies and the Romano-British kingdoms. And again, we get another plate. And these are, like I said before, these are great as painting references and modelling references for anyone that's planning to do an army in this period. And then we start to look at equipment and arms and clothing. And how that sort of started to change. And how Germanic equipment started to influence military of that period. So we got some more plates here. And again, this is going through all the different types of weapon spears that were being used by those that were fighting at the time. We have another plate again. This time it's British post-Roman kingdoms. We have an archer from Rached, Cumbria. Number 3 is a sub-Roman chieftain. And number 2 is a archer. So what this book does, it gives us a good overview of what was occurring at that time in the fall of the Roman Empire and the loss of connection to Rome in Gaul and Britain. And as we go, and we finish with a bibliography, and that gives you a good list of where the information came from, what resources to look for. And it also means that it gives you an idea where to look for more in-depth information if you want to actually go beyond this particular book. Like I said, this is due out post-Christmas. It's a great resource for anyone that's looking to play Dark Age period, especially specifically in the post-Roman. And it's a good starting point for that period as information and background. Obviously, you can go beyond that, but this, I would say, anyone that's looking to do that period, that's going to do games like Saga, Age of Invasion, this is a book you want to pick up. This will give you a good overview of that period and of those armies involved and the military. And then you can obviously jump off from this point into other books that discuss in greater detail. Anyway, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.